Welcome to You Can't Make This Shit Up. I'm your host, Joel Hoxley, and your co host is in the beautiful state of Illinois
The land of
and
Lincoln.
the land of Lincoln. Thank God somebody's there. So you're hosting David from the beautiful state of Illinois.
Yes.
And this is, we're at the Oxford Sports Pub and Secret Society. I'm glad to be here with David. I'm hoping that David has enjoyed the weather since the July 4th holiday was the hottest in
I
U.S. history.
heard. I heard. And wow. We've had temperatures here in Illinois, northern Illinois in the 80s. And I pretty much have been behind the laptop for most of that time. But yeah, it's good to be back on. You can't make this shit up. And let's just roll right into it.
Oh,
We're
absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about uh, one of Ron DeSantis' super PAC, Never Back Down, one of their top spokespersons, Steve Cortez, and some comments he made regarding the governor's presidential campaign. Now Steve is a former top Trump 2020 operative. And he's sounding a kind of a serious tone here in regards to the governor's presidential prospects. And he's saying that his campaign is facing an uphill battle, is trailing badly in key nominating states. The recent poll numbers, and you know me, I don't really believe in polls until election day. That's the poll that really matters. However, you have to pay attention to these polls where, you know, Trump is at 50% and DeSantis is at 15. So, you know, what's going on? What's going on, Joel? What say you?
Well, you knew this was going to be a tough race. I mean, Donald Trump was the nominee twice for the GOP. He is he is their standard bearer. He is the one who's brought these incredibly different tone to the Republican Party. He's brought a totally different class of people to the Republican Party. It's a struggle. It's a struggle for us traditional Republicans if we look elsewhere. So I think that the polls, just on the polls part, nobody wants to be called and say they don't support Donald Trump. You just don't want to do that. So if you poll with DeSantis being number two, he still
Mhm.
is the closest one to Donald Trump. I mean, Nikki Haley's not close, and Tim Scott's not close, and I mean, if I listed, I did on my show a little while ago all the candidates and more to come. So I don't, I think you can see that Donald Trump, the more people that are in this race, the more likely it is he wins the nomination. So I don't
Speaking,
know. This
Mhm.
is not a huge. It's not a huge explosion. This is what is troubling is how far down he dropped after the indictment and the rolling out of his campaign, which was on Twitter, which was horrible. Now you got threads coming out, so Twitter's not even relevant. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to be looking at that are going to hurt this campaign.
Right. Speaking of the competition in the Republican primary, uh, Vivek Ramaswamy, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the biotech entrepreneur who's running in the Republican primary, he has made some strides in the last week, according to some polls, where he has moved into third place. And if depending on what numbers you're looking at, he's about maybe 5 to 8 points behind DeSantis. And I as
How much do
viewers
you know about him?
and what's that?
How much do you know about him?
Oh boy, I watch a very long podcast. I can't remember the name of the podcast. It'll come to me that featured him. So I learned about his background, how he was able to create one company, sold it, create another company, moving very quickly in biotechnology. Very smart. He's has some views that I'm like, oh man, very strong immigration views. He's a
Mhm.
son of immigrants.
Mhm.
He has talked about the economy and pulling back from the entitlement society. He has played well with some very um, socially and fiscally conservative
You keyed on
members
it
of
right
the
there.
party. Hmm.
You keyed on
Hmm.
it right there. So here's what he's doing, and this is why he's being successful. David, you're right. All that's the technical stuff. I don't think anybody in my party gives a shit about that. I mean, if they did, we wouldn't have Donald Trump at the top of our ticket.
Good point.
I mean, and anybody wants to, get mad at me for saying that. No, this is about showmanship.
Sure.
And this candidate has shown up. He has been out. He was out in Miami when the indictment came. He put out a pledge. Hey, you know, I pledge to pardon Donald Trump if I'm
Yes.
elected president, and I want all my other fellow Republicans in this race to do the same. Well, you can take that two different ways, right? Hey, he screwed up, because he's already saying he's going to be convicted or whatever. But he's saying no, this is enough. Let's let's say guarantee we're going to pardon him because this was beyond. That elevates him, and then his social media presence after that has been incredible. I can't go on Twitter or Instagram or any of these things without seeing something from him now, and I'm not like totally directing. And now he's on national television.
Hmm. Right, right. He is impressive. He is impressive. My politics, of course, don't vibe with his. However, it's good to see VTEC's or VVEC's presence in this particular primary. In regards to the DeSantis campaign, I've made some comments on social media in regards to his campaign and just the optics of it all, the mismessaging. He is moving so far to the right for the Republican primary. And on Reddit, I was reading how people were reacting to that and then trying to wrap my brain around the fact that, well, he'll move towards the center. I was like, wait a second, how the hell are you going to move towards the center after going so far to the right in the primary? You've got a record in Florida that is always in the media, it seems, of late. The court challenges, the court losses. And I say, wait a second, there's receipts on this campaign. And he may do well in the primary, depending on, an implosion of the Trump campaign, which I doubt. But looking at his campaign now, it's a hot mess. As a veteran of campaigns, oh my God, the, the parade in New Hampshire. There was a photo of him, his wife, and his daughter in the rain, and the picture was, I saw that picture first before I saw the picture of him walking in the parade. The sun's out, whatever. Everyone's right, but that one of him in the rain and the exasperated look on his face, man. Who the hell is managing this? The governor. I
That's a
feel
good
bad
question.
for him.
No,
I feel
no,
bad for the whole campaign.
that's exactly what I mean. I think it's like anything else. The hype was so incredibly that the hype was just so much that there was just no way that these people were prepared for what people needed to see. Like
Hmm.
we know DeSantis. We know DeSantis very well. You either love him or you hate him, but we know him, and he's been here for us. We had a state. We had a state that went totally different than any other state in an election. Like abortion was the primary driver of,
Nationwide, yes.
and yet that was not even like on the top. 1% here in Florida.
It
It was
didn't
all
drive the Dems to the polls.
correct. It was all focused on DeSantis and DeSantis keeping businesses open and keeping Florida open. And then as soon as he gets on the national stage, everything becomes fair game. You're fighting. You're part of a business friendly party, and you're going after your largest employer in your state. I mean, you're going after. You're being called a book burner because you're supporting groups like the Moms for Liberty.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean,
Right.
you get to have them define you. One of the things you and I,
Yes,
as political innovators, one of the things we always strive is don't let anybody define you. Now
that's
what
right.
happened here is the media defined you, put you in a position that you couldn't even live up to. You come out and now you start to become just Ron. You're not Ron that I want to have a beer with. You're not Ron that you're Ron, the guy that Trump made. You know, totally defined by somebody else.
That's a
Exactly.
very, very good point. That's an incredibly good point. He and his campaign were defined early, right after Trump announced he was running for president in November, I believe November 19th. Wow, I remember that. He had the eyes and ears of the media, and he made it a point to define DeSantis early. And because DeSantis did not announce until much later, May, he could not push back. And again, we as a political innovators, we're always looking at this. This is what we do. We are looking at this, and it's just, for me, amateurish, that the campaign is functioning in the manner that it is. The recent, a good example is the recent video, campaign ad that was put together by a supporter of the campaign, that the campaign um, never fall back,
Disavowed.
or never,
Yeah,
right.
they never disavowed it, and
He
it
disavowed it, but it's already out there. They posted it, and you have Killian Murphy, Peaky Blinders, saying, "Hey, we disavow this. Get me out of that. Take my image out of that video." And it is. I mean, that video. I saw it for the first time yesterday because I'm a big Peaky Blinders, fan. But I'm just like, man, what happened? What? How did this happen? And
again.
there just seems to be no checks or balance. There's no who's handling all of this.
But David, you say they disavowed it. They didn't disavow it quick enough. It should. They had been
Yes.
blindsided. You, as a campaign, you can't be blindsided. You have supporters that are in some weird positions. We've already talked about that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you can't hold DeSantis to the white supremacist supporter. Right? I mean, you can't do that. But that supporter still puts information out there, right? You can't let again. You're allowing everybody else to define you by
Yes.
okay. Let's focus on who's supporting him. Let's focus on this. Let's. Nobody's ever focused on Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, the congressman that actually was a JAG officer, so should know the law and
Yes.
shouldn't ever be beaten in a court by legislation that he supports, unless he intends to try to change the Constitution. I, I'm I'm big fan of Ron DeSantis and what he has done, but I have been very critical because I don't know the definition of a Republican right now because we have so many different definitions. We have the Trump, the DeSantis. What's the difference? One's going after speech, the other doesn't know how to speak politely. I mean, I'm at a crossroads right now, and I'm not going to be driven out of my party. I'm going to be as conservative as I've always been. I'm going to be as I'm going to be fighting for the conservative causes of smaller government and everything else. I'm going to be holding those people accountable that when they're elected, but you need to keep me voting Republican. And I'm not going to just turn around and vote Democrat because the Democrats are way off base to what I believe. But you can't. This has become incredibly silly. Like when did we go back to school? Well, I thought we graduated from high school and middle school and all this, but it feels like I'm right back in the worst time of my life.
Right.
I mean, come on, guys. This is ridiculous. It looks like we've gotten immature instead of maturing and becoming a stronger party.
I there's a lot I agree with there. One thing that I must emphasize to our viewers and listeners is that this is a learning experience for us. And with every moment of this presidential campaign on both sides, it's a learning opportunity to, you know, hone our skills and make us better consultants, better political innovators. And, you know, there's so much
But David, I'm just going
that
to
I'm
cut you
learning.
off. I'm going to cut you off for just a second.
Yeah.
We are becoming a political innovation firm. We understand the word of innovation. We're embracing the word innovation because that's
Hmm.
where we're going. There's not a single campaign that has any innovation, no new ideas. They're all old ideas. The
Yeah.
media is still doing things the same exact way. You talked about a really good example of somebody who is innovating because he's in third place. But when some unexpected person gets up in the top tier, they usually fall very quickly when they make one mistake.
Hmm.
So this young guy, he's doing a great job. I mean, I like what he says, but I'm not that conservative. I mean, this guy is very
Yes, it
conservative,
is. Yes.
and he is Trump light, and
Sure.
DeSantis light in
Sure.
comparison. But I could vote for him.
Hmm.
I could vote for Nikki. I could vote for Tim. I could. There's
Scott.
a lot of there's a lot of Republicans I could vote for. Right now, I'm watching this thing. None of you are innovating. One, the one that is the one you mentioned. If you can see him from the Democrat side, we can see him on our side,
Well,
and he's moving forward. And now he's becoming a pet to the press, and that's going to hurt him. Or I mean, he has to be on perfect all the time because
I'll let I'll say my final word, and then you can have the final word. There's one thing I do want to give the governor's campaign some credit for was the fact that he attempted that he not successfully announced his presidential run on Twitter Spaces. I like the concept. I thought it was innovative. However, I think it was more because I listened to the whole thing. I was live for the whole thing. As a campaign consultant manager, I would have cautioned going the traditional way, being in your hometown in Florida or somewhere significant and making the announcement. Something brave, something exciting. Twitter Spaces has a small audience. Uh, you know, we could have done the afterword on Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk. And again, it was the Elon Musk show. So, you know, I'll have to hand it to him. That I like the idea. I know there are similar ideas that we'll employ in regards to announcements, events, et cetera, for our clients. So I give them credit for thinking outside the box. However, I believe it was that day that I said, you know, I'm done with that campaign. It's purely entertainment value from this point over. Final word, Joel.
well, you said it. I mean, you really hit it. Innovation is where we need to be. My final word is Republicans and end this bitter craziness. Let's become innovative and let's know our audience. Just like you said, if you're going to innovate, know your audience. This is
Yes,
not you cannot run a campaign on social media. There's only so many people watching you. Okay, I don't care if you have 1 million people that follow you. They're not watching you every day.
that's correct.
And you know, most of the people that are watching you are news media anyways, because they want you to say something stupid. So wake up. Let's get political innovation into our campaigns. Let's think outside the box. And I
Yep.
hate that term. I hate that term, but we got to do something different. So innovate your campaigns. Talk to Jay in Washington. Talk to somebody who actually can get you to win. Thank you.
Like, share, hit the notification button, comment.